Hi, welcome to this video. First, we're going to talk about how to optimize your computer for working with Finale on a laptop, and that is working with simple entry method. Simple entry has the advantage of being able to be usable on a laptop without having to use a separate piano type keyboard, which you may not always have with you. Okay, so the first thing to do is you've opened up the Finale file. Then you go to the menu and you make sure that you can see the main tool palette and the simple entry palette. Our goal is to get our left and right hands working together so we have quick and fluent note entry. The way to do that is to have your left hand input things that give you note values, as you're seeing the note value change in this cursor here really fast. And then your left hand is going to move the notes around to the right location. And when you have the right note value in the right location, your right hand is going to enter that note. And then you can go to another note and enter that. And when you need to modify a note, one of your hands can modify it to a sharp or flat. And all of this can happen very quickly so that you can get pretty fast note entry. That's our goal. Okay, so the first thing is to get your laptop optimized for that. And the way you do that is you go to the Simple Entry menu, click on that, you do Simple Entry Options. And then usually all of these are chosen. Control that. So I recommend deselecting those top four. Then we go to Edit Keyboard Shortcuts. And then what you'll probably see, if you haven't done this before, is you'll probably see that your computer is preset, if you look here, to the default shortcut table. You want to change that, if you want to use this method, you want to change that to the laptop shortcut table. This allows you to do more fluent entry on a laptop alone. Okay. And say OK out of this. I'll now demonstrate what this does. The numbers at the top of your laptop keyboard, not the very top row, not the function keys, but right below that, the big numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, are now going to be very useful to you. They are going to correspond to note values. So the most useful are 3, which is a 16th note, 4 is an 8th, 5 is a quarter, 6 is a half note, and 7 is a whole note. You can go 16th note is 3, 8th note is 4, quarter note is 5, half note is 6, and whole note is 7. Now take a minute, you want to pause the video and just try that on your computer and make sure that's working, that when you hit those numbers, your note values change for the cursor there. Okay, so we've got that working. Now that means that the left hand can be triggering those values, and the right hand can be taking care of positioning and entry. Okay, so I will say I want a quarter note next, my left hand hits the quarter note, and then my right hand positions it on, say, a G, and I click to enter, or I could also use the arrow keys, right, to get the caret ready to be entered, and then I could move the caret up and down with my arrow keys until I get the correct pitch. And when I'm on the correct pitch, I can either click or hit enter. And now I've got my sort of entry method is starting to work. Okay, so I would recommend that you pause the video for a second and just practice entering some notes. Left hand hitting note values, right hand navigating either with arrows or with the floating mouse, the trackpad, and finding, entering notes and just kind of getting used to the whole process like that. We're back now. Now we're going to talk about another thing you can do. Now this next thing is optional, and some people may decide not to use it, but that's fine. This extra thing allows you to do intervals very quickly in case you want to build chords, but it does mean that you have to give up, you have to change the functionality of your function keys at the top of your keyboard. You go to System Preferences, click on that. So there it is, there's keyboard, click on that, and this button here will be unchecked in most people's laptop, and what you want to do is you want to check it. This makes them be usable as function keys for whatever software program you're using, as opposed to operating your laptop. So you do that, and then you just click out of that, and now what it will do in Finale is that it will build intervals for you. So say I'm trying to build an 8th note chord right here, and I want to build an F triad. For me to enter that F triad with my trackpad is a little bit awkward, And if it was a more complicated chord, like where I had to jump around different intervals, and it could take a while. But if I could just say, oh, I'm stacking thirds and just hit 3, well, I just hit function key F3, and I build a chord really, really fast this way. Okay, so say I'm going to do a second inversion. I hit the first note, then I can hit a fourth because that's going to be, I can hit the function key 4, and then a 3, and there's my second inversion. It's very, very fast. So now what do you do to make up for the lack of your original keys? You can't turn up your volume anymore. You can't brighten your screen. Well, what you do is just hit the function key on your laptop and hold it down, and now it will still turn up and down your laptop. All the original things that your function keys did will still be possible to be done, but you just need to hold down the function key to do them. Brightening your screen, all of that stuff, okay? But you just have to hold down the function key. And meanwhile, in Finale, you'll be really fast with your intervals up and down. Okay, so that's your laptop for use with Finale part of this video. The next part is going to be about really important and useful shortcuts to make your entry of music really quick. We're back. So now we're talking about shortcuts. Finale is a tool-based program, and if you didn't know any shortcuts, every time you want to do something, you would have to move over to this tool palette, or one of the tool palettes, and click on a particular tool, engage that, and then do various activities after that, like say doing a key signature. I have to go to the key signature tool, or going to change something about a measure or bar line I have. But there's a sort of global tool that allows you to do a lot of that more quickly, and it's called the selection tool. It's right here. And you can go and select that, but there's even a shortcut to get to the selection tool, and that's by pressing the escape button a few times. And you'll see that when I do that, it just goes to the selection tool. The selection tool is like the all-around utility Swiss Army knife kind of thing for the program. So when you're in the selection tool, here's a really good shortcut. Select that measure, and then do Control-click or right-click if you have a mouse, and a contextual menu will open up. And it contains all, like I said, about 80 to 90% of the things that you would ever want to do. A lot of things that you can just get to very quickly without having to go searching for the tool. So say I wanted to add a measure here. Instead of going over here and doing about 3 or 4 clicks, I can just go here. I can say Control-click. I hold down Control, or I hold down the right mouse button while I go down and do the thing I want to do, and I say I want to add a measure, and I click on that, and then I can ask me how many, and I can click through and add a measure. Or say I want to transpose this. Again, Control-click, up or down, either diatonically or chromatically, by whatever interval, and I can do that very quickly. So that's one of the most powerful shortcuts, is the contextual menu shortcut, which is available from the selection tool, which you get to by hitting escape a few times. So if I'm on something else, hit escape a few times, there I'm there, and then I select a measure, Control-click, and there it is. Okay, next shortcut has to do with manipulating notes after you've entered them. And so one of the most common things we need to do is, by the way, this is the simple entry tool, and I'm clicking on that to get back in there. One of the most important things you need to do is alter a note by flat. So the shortcut for that is, in simple entry, is plus sharpens a note, or raises it by a half step. So if you do it by 2, you'll get a double sharp. And if I go minus, that takes me down a half step till I get back to natural, and then eventually to flat and double flat. So we have additional things like natural. If you want an accidental natural, you hit the first letter of the word natural is N, hit that, and you will get, if you've already had a previous note, say this is sharp, and if just in case that hadn't showed up, let's just do this. If you needed to show natural, you could hit an N to create the natural. Okay, so plus for raising a note a half step, minus for lowering a note a half step, and N for natural. The most common way that we need to change notes is by an octave, like say we're adjusting voice leading. So I want to move that note down an octave. Instead of having, I could arrow down, but it would take a long time. I'd have to do that. But if I do shift plus arrow, it automatically goes down an octave or up an octave, the arrow. Next is how to navigate through a chord. So you say you want to get to a chord, you're on a chord, and you want to, make, say, the you're on the G, and you want to make that D a D sharp. Just hit the arrow, it just starts moving that note up. You don't want that. You want to get the cursor, the caret, to be on the top note and then manipulate it. The way you do that is with Command plus arrow. Command plus arrow moves you through a chord, and when you get there, then you can manipulate it, like hit the plus key to make it sharp or whatever you're trying to do. A couple more shortcuts. Often you want to copy something you've written, so it's just like a word processor. You select what you want to copy, either a whole measure or a partial measure by drawing, clicking and dragging. And then you do Command C to copy, and then click where you want it to go and Command V to paste. So that's copy and paste. And then if you want to cut something, it's Command X, like also in a word processor. All right, drum entry and finale. This is being done on a template that has already been pre-mapped to show the drums the way the Berkeley standard is. When you first get finale, it has the drums mapped in a different way. In other words, the hi-hat shows up in a different place and things like that. So this video is not going to be able to cover how to remap the drums. That will be a separate video. This video is just showing you how to enter the drums once your drum set map is set up correctly. So if you're using one of my templates, you'll be fine with this. Okay, so the first thing to remember about drum writing is that you're actually writing more than one part on a stave, and anytime that you're writing more than one part on a single stave, you need to use layers so that each part has its own identity as a separate part. The way we do that in drum writing is we have anything played with the feet is stems down, and anything played with the hands is stems up. So we're going to choose layer 2 for the feet part of the drum set. So I'm going down here, and this is the key thing to remember. The layer choice button is down here at the bottom of your screen, and there's also another way to get to it, but this is the easiest way, and you click on that, and then you just choose layer 2. And I'm going to enter a very simple drum beat. I'm going to choose simple entry, and you will know from watching the earlier part of this video that you can move the cursor, the caret, around with the arrows, and you can move it down on a staff, up and down a staff with up and down arrows. But to get it to switch between staves, you need to do Command arrow up and down through staves. Now we're down on the drum set. We're on the kick drum line. I need a quarter note, so because I have my laptop optimized, I can hit 5, and that gives me a quarter note. If I needed a half note, I'd hit 6, and so on. Whole note. I need a quarter note. I've got it in the right place. It's ready to go. That's the kick drum space, so I hit return to enter that. You'll notice that the stem isn't down yet. It will be once I put in the other layer. Now I need an 8th note, so I put in, change this to an 8th note, and I want a rest. But what I do is I just go ahead and hit my, my 8th note, and then I hit the first letter of the word rest, R, and that gives me my rest. And then I need another 8th note, but I'm going to leave that as a note. And then I need another quarter note. I change my quarter note, hit that. Need another 8th note, change it to a rest with R, and another 8th note. And I have a really basic rock kick drum pattern. Now I move to the hands. So I go back down, change the layer. It's very important to remember to do that. Layer 1, back to layer 1. And now I can put in my hi-hats. I'm going to do constant 8th note hi-hats closed. Put that in. If for some reason it's open, you can just arrow down and the arrow back up and it will be closed. Then you can arrow over. If it's not on the hi-hat, just arrow up to it. When it's there, then you can hit return repeatedly to get a bunch of 8th notes. Now I need snare. I'm going to do a conventional snare on 2 and 4. So I put it on 2 and 4, and now I've entered my multi-layer finale drum. And of course, as mentioned before, you can now copy and paste